Before I said anything this morning, something already happened in this room. Some of you smiled. Some of you got very serious. Some of you shifted in your seats. A few of you leaned in to listen. A few of you are still trying to determine whether I'm worth your focus and your time right now. What is that? It's energy. And energy always speaks before we do. Not our resume, not our reputation, but it is the energy that we emit that introduces us wherever we are and whoever we meet. It was once said that the human mind and the human body was the very first broadcasting station. And what we send out influences people to either trust us, it can warm hearts, it can turn people off, it can make us get and give goosebumps. We've all felt that vibe, we've all felt that energy, and it will always speak before we do. So how do we choose to show up? How do we choose and affect our presence so that it's not just something that is out of our control and that can change day by day? This is not mystical. This is nervous system communication. We are hardwired to recognize and communicate non-verbally and with our feelings. Everything is feelings. So I feel you, you feel me. We're getting messages from our face, from our body, and that vibe that we're feeling. There was a study done many years ago of heat sensor photography on even people who had lost limbs. And some people have debunked it, some people have put weight to it, but that showed that we could see the energy where limbs were when they were no longer on someone's physical body. So we are constantly emitting this energy to other people and between each other. So your internal state can set the emotional tone for the room or for whatever energy you want to have happen between you and other people that you're trying to build a relationship with. So I want to shift the energy in the room right now. So I'm going to ask you to all stand up, and you're going to do this with me. And it's something called Crazy Eights. We're just going to kind of shake it out and get ourselves going. And you have to follow my pace. So we're going to use our right hand, our left hand, then our right leg and our left leg. And you're going to keep up with me, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Woo! You did it. Don't you feel so much better now? We are talking about that intangible thing that happens between us as human beings that create feeling. And feeling is everything. Think of all the things that you do during any given day, whether it is listening to music, watching a Hallmark movie, tuning into something, reading a book. It is almost all meant to help us affect our feelings and change our feelings in some way. Even during the holidays, we're shooting for a feeling. When we see certain people, we're aiming for to change a feeling and to reconnect with an old feeling. Energy is our real product. It doesn't matter what we're selling. It doesn't matter what the product or service is. It is how we show up that is the real product that will make or break our success. And most of the time, we don't think about it. We think about good days and bad days. We think about how we're feeling. But do we actually say, how am I deciding to show up in this situation? How do I want to show up in this conversation, in this relationship? And are we intentional about it? A lot of times we're not. All right, so you don't have to stand up for this one, but we are going to do the 5-second warmth test. Now, this is going to be difficult for some of you, but you need to try to do this. You're going to turn to the person next to you, and you're going to look at each other with no expression, a neutral face. You can call it the resting bee face. You can call it the neutral face. Look, you're already laughing. But try really hard, no expression. Stare right at the next person, neutral face, no expression. No talking. Can't do it. All right, it's hard, it's awkward, we get it. Now I want you to shift and smile gently, relax your jaw, soft eyes, grounded breath. Doesn't this feel so much better to look at each other with kindness, with openness, with genuineness? So this is the difference of, how people judge us and how people feel around us. We caused a stir. All right. So you know how every year they come out with words of the year? So in 2025, if any of you have young children, who knows 6, 7? You can't say 6, 7. It's got to be 6, 7. So this was not Gen Z, but Gen Alpha's word. Nobody knew what it meant. Some people thought it was a 6, 7 athlete. What it really was an inside joke for these kids to drive adults crazy, and they succeeded. But what was their other word, even at a young age, their other most popular term that they used amongst each other? Aura. Aura, the intangible vibe or energy that someone exudes. So even this young generation Alpha knows how important someone's energy and vibe is, and how they're showing up, and who they're deciding they want to hang out with, and who they're deciding they want to trust and be friends with and spend their time with. So again, we are hardwired to try to detect if people are someone that we feel safe with, that we feel accepted by and trusting. So we're talking about aura here also is our energy. So how do you show up? Think about, how do you show up? Do people say, I'm in good hands with this person, I can feel that? Do they feel calmer around you? Or are you having an agitated day where you lost your keys and you're huffing and puffing when you show up somewhere, and you didn't maybe do your due diligence, or you were running behind, or crazy thing? We all have stuff we're struggling with in our lives and in our families, and sometimes we show up with that, don't we? But if that chaos and that tension transmits, even though we're trying to hold it back, it's going to be a problem. So we really need to find ways to cultivate and strengthen and shift our energy at our disposal when we want to change our energy, so that people feel confident and that they feel that we are competent. Because snap judgments happen in a blink of an eye and can affect our credibility. So we want to do that energy check always before we walk into a situation. And we want to decide, what is my energy going to be that I'm going to bring? It doesn't take a long time, but it has to be intentional. So do you control your energy, or does your energy control you? And I think that a lot of us know the answer to that. I know I've had days where I let my energy control me. I have had days where I let outside forces, get involved, or something that people said, or things that I was procrastinating about, or you stub your toe and the rest of the day goes like that. We've all had those moments where we've let energy control us, instead of us saying, no, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to change to a better energy walking into a situation. So most people don't realize that we have an internal thermostat, and we can control that. Everyone, or at least a lot of you, have probably seen the Iron Man movies where Tony Stark has the glowing dial in the middle of his chest, right? So I want you to picture that that's something that you have at your access, and you can turn up the warmth, you can turn the urgency down, and you can choose to be calm, open, and grounded at your disposal. And this, again, is through your breathing, your body language, your mindset, and your intentional decision on how you want to show up. Because confidence isn't about the person who feels so present and is so gregarious and so full of energy. It is more about what is that energy and what is the confidence stemming from. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So I want you to sit comfortably, and I want you to picture that dial in your chest right now. And I want you to picture 2 levels as of right now. So I want you to be at level 1, and some of you are probably not here right now, which is a good thing, but I want you to go there. So level 1 is when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling guarded or distracted. So just close your eyes for a minute, or you can keep them open, but I want you, what would you feel right now if you were tired, guarded, and distracted? And just sit with that for a minute, and just feel that for a minute. Doesn't feel so good. It really changes your energy. Probably your body language changed, your face, your breathing, your thought process, your internal screen. You probably felt like this downer moment, right? All right, so now I want you to turn the dial up to level 2. And level 2 is just a neutral place. It's just a place where you're professional, you're pretty calm, but you're pretty neutral. There's nothing really agitating you, nothing exciting, nothing that's a downer, but just kind of nice and neutral. And you'll see again, your body language changed, your voice changes. If you're speaking, your breathing changes. You can feel these shifts in your body, all right? Even your posture can change. So now what I want you to do is I want you to turn that dial in your mental screen, and you can even go like this if it helps, and turn it to level 3. And that level is where you feel kindness and love, and where you want to connect with other people, and you want to be the bright light in the room. You want to be an illuminator, not someone that's a diminisher. There was a great book that was written all about how to know people, and it talks all about how some people are illuminators and some people are just diminishers, and we know who they are, and we hope that we're the illuminator. So turn that dial to number 3, and I want you to turn to your neighbor on 3 and just look at them right now and say, "Good to see you." So isn't that great? Doesn't that feel so much better? So that proves that energy is adjustable and it is not personality based. We know people that are flat. We know people that are kind of sticks in the mud. They're choosing that because you just proved that energy is adjustable. And you have that power to do that, but you have to think about it, and it has to be something that you're intentionally aiming for. So do you cultivate your energy, or do you just kind of let it be what it is? Because there's so much that can affect our energy, and we know this. Self-care, sabotage happens sometimes. I had someone that used to work as one of my bosses in broadcasting, and he would talk about how some people would come in and they would go out for an audition on camera. And he could always tell the people that really had that self-trust, that really had that presence and that choice of how they wanted to show up, because they would usually do better on the auditions, where some of the people that came in that quite felt like they hadn't maybe earned the right to be there yet, hadn't got to that level yet, maybe they were a little green, a little younger, and then they would get into this big moment where they had a chance to be in this big role, and he'd learn later that they either overslept, or maybe they went out and had a big dinner the night before, or had a few drinks. They were self-sabotaging because in the back of their mind they really didn't believe they were ready for that next big role or that next level yet. So think to yourself, what are you doing to cultivate your own personal energy? And if you have a big meeting or something the next day that's super important to you, what are you even doing in the days leading up to that that can control your energy? When I came here today, do you think I listened to the news? Not a chance. Do you think that I looked through any kind of social media? Nope. I focused on what I wanted to do and the energy that I wanted to bring for you wonderful folks who invited me back here this year, and that was my priority. You were my priority, and I wasn't going to let anything affect my energy. I was going to guard my energy and know how I wanted to show up for people that were important to me. So that is an active, conscious decision that we all want to make. So it's really important. Presence is not confidence, by the way. You can get a lot of people that seem very confident, but they can't connect with other people. That's more cockiness, that's more arrogance. Maybe they feel really good about themselves, but they're focused on themselves rather than how do I connect? How do I get out there and meet other people. I had a very dear mentor who was this really amazing, successful man who everybody knew him. And I won't give too much detail because I don't want to reveal who he was, but you'd know who he was. And he had this amazing capacity. He would enter a room, and he told me this. He never enters a room saying, "Here I am." He always enters a room, "There you are. There you are." And he aims to make those people feel like the star. And this guy is a star. And I fell in love with him even more once he told me that. Because so many people whose careers rely on their image and their ability to show up can be very self-focused and miss the mark, miss the point of connecting and making other people shine, right? So it is how people feel around us, and it is trainable, and you can train yourself in how you show up. It's super important, and it is a skill, by the way. Presence is a skill. It's how we continually decide to focus, fine-tune, and get feedback as we show up in different ways for different people. So it's regulating, and it's deploying, and it is controlling the environment. And in your case, not just selling, but how am I going to influence the tone of the room and the tone of the relationship and let people know they're in really good hands with me and that I really care, that first and foremost I care. That's super important. And people respond to frequency. This is why, you could have two people that say the same message and we only hear it from one of them, because it's the delivery mechanism is different. The way that we can tell their meaning behind their message is different. So it really is going back to that energy again. It's so important. And we've already said this. Energy truly is everything. In broadcasting, in the world that I grew up with, there was always a saying, no energy, no audience. Click, we're on to something else. So it's super important. So ask yourself, how do I want people to feel? Before you walk into any situation, whether it's a networking event or a one-on-one meeting with a client or anything that you have to do, your first and foremost question to yourself should be, how do I want the people to feel around me? How do I want people to feel today? And this does incredible things for taking the pressure off of, how do I look? How do I sound? I hope they like me. I hope I'm enough. No, now we're focused on them. How do I want to make them feel? It's so empowering and so genuine. So when you start your morning, I would love for you to consider these daily non-negotiables. Starting the day before you get inundated with emails and social media, etc. I just lay in bed and I think of 3 things that I'm thankful for. I say a prayer and then I visualize, how do I want my day to unfold? How do I want to connect and relate and be with people today? How do I want to walk through the world today? And it really doesn't take very long, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but it sets a baseline. It changes your whole launch into your day. And then I stole this from someone else that I was listening to one time. When you get out of bed, you say, thank you. And it's a way to show, again, more gratitude. And especially if we have a lot going on, studies show that nothing cancels stress and anxiety faster than gratitude. Our brain can't handle both sides of that equation there. Take that nice deep breath and let it out. Get a hold of your breathing. If you can get a hold of your breathing, we talked about this last time, if some of you might remember, that your language skills and your cognitive abilities decrease by as much as 70% when you're feeling stress and anxiety. And the easiest way to get a hold of stress and anxiety is to get control of our breathing, that belly breathing from that nice deep place. And set one emotional intention for the day. How do you want this one day that you'll never get back again to go in your life? And even if things go awry, even if it ends up being, something not the day that you expected, if you walk into it with a different intention, it will somehow be a little bit better than it might have been had you not have done that. So how do I want people to feel around me today? And your nervous system, once you focus on stuff like that, will kick your motivation in. And if you're going out there, especially as salespeople, how important is motivation? I think we know how important it is. So that energy switch in the morning will make you feel more eager, more encouraged, and more motivated, which is something that I think that we all, want to have. So everyone pretty much knows who Marilyn Monroe is in this room, I think, right? So years ago, I was watching a documentary on her. and they were interviewing one of her friends, a friend that wasn't famous, a friend that knew her well, that would go out with her when she wasn't on. You know, they'd just be walking down the street and she would be in a regular outfit and she might have a scarf on, or she might have something on her that she was walking down the road, just normal with her friend. And nobody was noticing them or anything. And she said this happened all the time. And one day Marilyn turns to her and they're in a busy city street and she goes, "You want to see her?" And she's like, "What?" She goes, "You want to see her?" And she goes, "Okay." And she changed her body language. She walked, she threw off the thing, and she had all this different energy. And boom, every single person that was around that had not noticed her suddenly turns around and was like, "Holy cow, that's Marilyn Monroe." So that's an extreme example of how we shift our energy. She was becoming a persona, and she was becoming a star, obviously, and that's different. But it's a great example of she was able to turn it on and turn it off and just blend in, or she could really stand out and be magnetic and be charismatic and attract people's attention. And I loved that story because I felt it's so useful for us in genuine ways, for us to decide how we're gonna turn on that connecting device that we have to be able to reach and be with other people. So Tony Robbins, who most of you will know from many years of being the infomercial guy that would talk about personal power and all those things, originally talked about, the first time I heard it, about creating an anchor. So what an anchor is something that we can lock in, that we can do, that will help us get back into a certain state again. So as I was learning this, I remember I had gotten hired by ADP, the payroll company, to MC their 50th anniversary down in Orlando. And it was me and another gentleman, and they had, oh my gosh, like Elton John playing there. It was a big hoopla. I think there was thousands and thousands of people in the audience. And I had been learning about this anchoring. And of course, you know, everybody was, the energy was up, and we were like, this is a big deal. And they kind of made it look like the Oscars. We had to be in a gown and a tuxedo. And I had an event right before that went really well. So I learned about this anchoring. So I just kept doing this. Every time I thought to myself, this feels really good. I feel my best. I feel confident. I feel ready to go. I feel strong and powerful. And I was like, I hope this anchoring works because I've got that big ADP thing coming up next week, right? So I'm at the back of the stage and I feel my heart rate go up. I feel the butterflies. I'm like, there are thousands of people out there and Elton John is over there. And all of a sudden I just start going, and I was like, oh. I felt how I felt at that last really successful event. And there was something to that. And the more that I did that, the more that I started creating different anchors. It could be wiggling your toes so nobody sees and closed-toed shoes. It can be anything that you want it to be. But we're going to talk about how you can lock that in. So I want you to close your eyes right now. And I want you to try to recall a moment where you felt on fire. You were feeling confident, everything was falling in place. You felt like people trusted you and loved you and they were so thankful and grateful for you, and you knew you were helping somebody. You knew you were being of service, you knew you were making a difference, right? And you felt like, yes, this is the work I'm supposed to be doing, or yes, I'm a people person. I love connecting with others. Now I want you to vividly feel your posture, your breath, your tone of voice, all of those things that you had at the time. Now I want you to take one slow breath and say to yourself internally, this is who I am when I am at my best. Lock it in. This is who I am when I am at my best. Now I want you to take your thumb and your finger, your forefinger, which is the one immediately next to your thumb, and hold it together like you see somebody when maybe they're meditating or when they're about to snap their fingers. And now I want you to feel these feelings again and say, this is how I feel when I'm at my best. And you can do this later on to really lock it in. And the more you do that, the next time that you're in a situation where you really do want to feel you're at your best, all you're going to have to do is squeeze your thumb and your finger together, and that will recreate that moment. Because this works because your nervous system responds to memory, not current reality. You're anchoring identity, not a good mood. And that's what you want to do. You want to anchor your identity of how you want to show up to be with people and to be successful. This stuff works. Science proves it. And you can also use your 5 senses. I worked with a woman named Grace Smith of Grace Hypnotherapy. She was one of my clients several years ago. She was going to be going on television on an interview talking about hypnosis. And I got to know a little bit about her, and I said, could you ever put me under hypnosis? And she's like, yes, absolutely. So she's like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, sometimes I do these live medical educational broadcasts, and they throw the most horrid words at me, like pharmaceutical, made up medical terminology. And sometimes at the last minute before we go live, and I have to act like I say this every day and I'm calm and confident. And sometimes that still can rattle me, even though I've been doing this all these years, because I like to be prepared and I don't like to sound like the hired help. So I really do put a lot of pressure on myself to talk and sound like these doctors. So she's like, okay, pick a place that you feel at your best and you feel calm and confident, and I'm going to walk you through this. And what we did in this exercise is I used my 5 senses. So I pictured this grove that was kind of like a sacred, wonderful place that I would go with my family in upstate New York, and it was always a beautiful, calm memory of a place. I listened to what it would have sounded like when I was there. And then I smelled the moss, I smelled the dirt and the trees and everything of how it would have smelled. And I kind of tasted the air a little bit, and then I remember I touched this wooden bench that would have been in the middle of the grove. And then she talked me through, okay, now I want you to be in this place, calm, confident, ready to go. And of course, she had that wonderful hypnosis voice, and I closed my eyes. We did this over Zoom, by the way, and it still worked. And we went through this whole thing. And of course, the next week, I'm out in Michigan somewhere, and I have another one of these medical broadcasts that I do for the healthcare industry, and they're throwing all this terminology at me again. And I just closed my eyes, and I recalled everything that I went through with her, the 5 senses, where I was. And I'm a person of faith, so I had that element in there too. And all of a sudden, I felt this calm come over me. And I was just like, you know what? I'm good. I got this. I called her the next week and I said, I can't believe this worked in 1 session. And she's like, you can do this yourself and you can keep making it better. And I know you all have probably some wonderful place. It could be a childhood memory. It could be anything where you can go in your mind's eye to feel warm and safe and at your best and nourished, so that you refill your cup, so that when you're out there with other people, you have more to give and you can show up at your best for them. So we're going to do an energy intention shift, and this will create a magnetic rapport for people. So instead of thinking, how am I coming across? Because we all do that. We're like, I hope I sound good. I hope they trust me. I hope I look good today, all of these other things. But how we can switch that to is going back to being other focused. How do I make them feel at ease? How do I make them feel comfortable? And if we can do that, that can change things. The most confident people in the room, again, are not self-focused. They are other-focused. And why this works when you do this shift is because it eliminates nervous energy and it creates that warmth that we're talking about immediately. And here's another great quick shift for you. Instead of asking, am I good enough, when you walk into a sales meeting, especially if there are people that you consider heavy hitters there, or a larger company or a competitor or whatever it may be, decide that you're going to say, what role am I going to play right now? And say to yourself, what am I really doing here? I'm here to guide. I'm here to clarify. I'm here to steady the room. I'm here to maybe open up some possibilities for people. What other self-talk can you use? Because imposter syndrome disappears when we stop performing and we just say, all right, how do I have to function today? And this removes the prove myself to others traps. And it mirrors elite performers. This is what pilots do, surgeons, negotiators, top closers. Do you remember Sully Sullenberg landing the plane in the Hudson? He was not worrying about how he looked or sound. He was not worrying about what if I crash, because if he was thinking that way, he probably would have. He was like, what is my role? What is my job right now? My job and my role right now is to land this thing in the Hudson and make sure these people get off the plane. And I heard interviews with him. He said that's all he focused on. He had everything else go out of his mind. And that was the only thing that guided him and gave him the confidence and the steadiness to land that plane without anybody even getting injured. I mean, we all can agree what a miracle that was, right? So Don't ask, do I belong here? Am I good enough? What is my role right now? So we're going to do the meaning flip. We're going to shift from threat to opportunity. And look up on the screen. Instead of, if you're noticing, am I being judged? Do I feel like this matters too much? Do I feel like I'm putting all this pressure on myself? Like I got to get this right. I got to get this sale. Say to yourself, what else could I say to myself that gives me more of an empowering thought? Like what will stabilize you from going down a spiral there? So instead of they're evaluating me, they're curious about me. That's a much more positive way to do it. I need to perform right now. No, how can I contribute? How can I be a contributor today? This is high stakes. No, it's high visibility. And high visibility means you can help more people. You can connect with more people. You can be of more service. Because your brain reacts to meaning before it reacts to logic. And that is a big difference. So confidence, which is the title of my book and the word that I have branded, really always comes down to making a choice of how I'm going to control my calm and my confidence and how I'm going to show up. So let's talk a little bit about how do we adjust our energy for different clients, because you guys meet all kind of people, and I'm sure you've seen at least the 3 categories that I'm going to talk about. So high anxiety clients. It's tough to buy and sell a home, and it's a major life change for people, right? So what would be your role here? You would be a regulator, regulating the emotions, regulating the setting, showing up with a slower pace, a lower steady voice maybe, fewer words, more pauses, and you're helping them settle their nervous system, because we're always doing mirroring, and remember that energy is contagious. We talked about that last time, that emotional contagion, that we catch emotions and energy from each other. So here you're going to regulate for them so that now you're not even worrying about yourself. Now you're just like, how do I help them calm down and get easy? So analytical and data-driven clients. So what is your role here? You're anchoring. Now you're going to anchor. You're going to be someone that's showing up with organized energy, very clear structure, because they like that, and measured enthusiasm, because people that are very analytical, they don't want too much hype. They don't want to make it sound like everything is the best new thing since sliced bread. So we need to tamper that a little bit, right? And then vision-driven, high energy clients. So what do we want to do here? We need to match and guide. So we want to kind of have that little bit of elevated energy, future-focused language, so we can think about and help them, explore their vision and learn what their vision is, and that warm enthusiasm, grounded but not too scattered, right? So we kind of meet them where they are rather than them feeling like we're trying to manage their energy, right? So let's just talk about some practical, empowering energy and how we can make that happen. Because I know that sometimes when I talk about this, people in the room are like, this is great, but what if I'm having a really tough day? What if other extenuating circumstances are happening in my life and I'm just really thrown by them? You can still create these shifts for yourself. So we talked about that breathing, taking that big inhale and then regulating that breathing. That will always help you get your heart rate a little calm, lower a little bit your cortisol, standing in a nice upright posture. Because body language shows us that when we're imploding, when we're going down into this kind of framework with our body, our cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, rises, and our confidence level kind of goes down, right? But what are we doing when we're looking at our devices or looking at our phones? We're in this implosion phase and we don't even realize it. So that's why people like talk show hosts walk around doing the big poses and like this behind the curtain before they come out. And people that are performers do all these things backstage to change their physiology by how they're using their posture, and they're walking in like they just came from someplace fabulous, actually. And that changes their energy. And that's that body language. And then, of course, the self-talk. I catch myself on this all of the time. I start to say I have to. And I'm like, no, you get to. Because there's a lot of people here that don't get to do whatever you're doing right now anymore, right? So that's a wonderful shift. I get to do this today. I get to get up. I get to be with my kids. I get to deal with that driver in front of me that's driving me crazy, because I am able to be on the road and have my own car and see with my eyes, my vision, right? So it changes a lot of things for us. Okay, who's thinking about their tongue right now? We don't often think about our tongue, and I can tell you that it was a real struggle to find a decent picture of a tongue on the internet that was usable for an audience as lovely as you. So when you relax your tongue, it creates a whole cascading effect in our physiology. And you're going to say, well, I don't know, it's just in my mouth. But what we don't realize is many times it is pressed up against the roof of our mouth. It is held tight in our mouth and we don't realize that. It narrows our throat. Our breathing becomes more shallow. Our voice tightens. And our brain is actually getting the message we are under pressure. So let's talk about some ways that we can relax our tongue. Because it lowers our cortisol. It slows mental chatter when our tongue is relaxed. It decreases that feeling of overwhelm. It can interrupt spiraling emotions that we're having, and it will bring us into the present. And if you've ever heard about mindfulness, it's all about being in the present moment and not worrying about yesterday, today, and tomorrow, because none of us can handle all three of those things at the same time, right? So it tells us we're safe and there is no threat, and we can reset our physiology in just under 10 seconds by doing this, okay? And this is gold for you and gold for anybody that communicates for a living, especially in sales. It makes your voice warmer, your tone lower, your speech smoother, your articulation clearer, and your facial expression more natural. It'll make you feel more confident rather than rushed and more present instead of tense. So we're gonna do this together, all right? So gently let your tongue fall just to the bottom of your mouth, where like that little happy parking place it is, in between your teeth, not touching your teeth and not touching the roof of your mouth. And now I want you to release your jaw, let your jaw hang open like, it's loose. And exhale a little bit longer than you inhale. You should start to feel your shoulders drop, your breath deepen, your brain quiet, your chest loosen, and your presence shift. You are all going to be thinking about me when you think about your tongue in the future, forevermore. Because now you're gonna have this awareness, and I'm telling you that it works. And you're gonna catch yourself moving forward. You're gonna be like, wow, I really do have my tongue pressed up against my teeth. I really do have my tongue pressed up against the roof of my mouth. Or I am kind of holding it a little bit tight here right now. We don't even realize we're doing these things. So this is a great internal relaxation before you walk into any room. And no one even knows that you're doing it. And you will be amazed that if you practice this, how much it's going to have a whole big effect on your physiology. So, when you really need to get rid of some energy, when you've really had a tough day or are angry at somebody, or you just need to get rid of some of your negative energy, I'm giving you the lion's breath exhale. It's gonna get ugly in here. And I'm gonna start getting ugly before I make you get ugly. But I am gonna ask you all to do this with me because it releases our jaw. It helps reset our shallow breathing patterns. It opens the vocal channel, and it will break the stress loop. Okay, you ready? Wow, I'll have what she's having. That felt amazing. Now it's your turn. Everybody's got to do it. 1, 2, 3. That felt good, didn't it? It felt great, right? You maybe break even a little sweat. Okay. So, remember, energy is our first conversation. Before you shake a hand, before you explain who you are, even if someone has recommended you with a glowing recommendation, it is going to be your energy that's really introducing yourself when you walk in and you meet somebody for the first time, because your energy will speak before you even get a chance to say anything. And sometimes it even gets into the room before us, and that's some weird thing that I won't even get into that can apparently go through walls with these people that can see things. Don't even get me started, but it is a real transmission of a thing. So energy is everything, as we talked about. So my invitation to you today is do not aim to impress, do not aim to feel confident, and don't give your power away to the moment at hand. You always have that dial that you can reach at. You always have that mental screen, that inner place that you can go to if you've anchored correctly and if you've worked on anchoring to go internal and get yourself into the state of body, mind, and spirit that you want to be in when you want to show up your best for people. Walk into the room with intention, because people will feel that before they feel anything else. When your energy is right, the words land, your presence will expand. You will be more successful. You will change the room, you will change people because they will want to follow your lead because you are setting the tone. And when you know that you have that power, you really are unstoppable. And that's my wish for you today, is to decide how you're going to show up and know that you can control how you're going to show up. And you will be successful if you do those things. Thank you, guys.